This timeline will be different from ours. In 2020, a planet in our galaxy called planet Gigantis was discovered as well. It is a rare type of planet known as a super Earth. This planet with was the size was in a size that was thought impossible for a habitable planet. Thus, humanity named it Planet Gigantis, which is where its name comes from as well. The life on the planet called it Cynoria, of course, coming from the native Cynorians that used to live on this planet. However, it was discovered 66 million years ago. However, Cynorians are no longer around as well. Sometime around 66 million years ago, the Cynorian planets collapsed as well. It was one of the most catastrophic extinctions in history. The Cynorian collapse was one of the biggest extinctions of all time. 90% of all life disappeared on the planet. And the Cynorian collapse was the collapse of the Cynorian Empire as well, which caused the collapse of various ecosystems around the world, around the regional galaxy area as well. As 66 billion years ago, the Cynorians held a long standing 100 million year reign. No, long standing reign from 250 million years ago to around 66 million years ago. This was one of the biggest galactic reigns of all time as well. And this reign collapsed around 66 million years ago with the Cynorian collapse. The Cynorian collapse was one of the worst extinction events in all of history as well. This caused the KT extinction, which scientists at the time blamed it on a meteor. However, the truth will have come out once humanity explores the cosmos and explores that many planets suffered a similar fate 66 million years ago. 66 million years ago was the collapse of the Cynorian Empire. The Cynorian Empire, however, was a very peaceful empire. They were expansionists, yes. However, they came through diplomacy and peace, propping up lesser planets, being one of the only sentient life forms in the galaxy at the time as well. The Cynorian records recorded basically everything. The rise of the Cynorians, the evolution on the planet. Also, 250 million years ago, the planet looked very different than now. This is the present-day configuration of the continents on planet Cynoria, or planet Gigantis as well. We're going to call it planet Gigantis because it's the human name for the planet, obviously, as well here. However, it was very believed that the planet would never hold sentient life again. 90% of its life forms went extinct overall, beyond power of the Great Dying. Very few life forms survived this extinction, including a few mini Cynorians, which are bird-like animals that survived the extinction. They were very, very adaptable and lived on an empty planet, basically. You had various fish-like animals, survive. I'm not going to give them a name because they're basically just standing for fish. But basically, they are the ancestors of the mini Cynorians, as well as they are the oldest group of animals on the planet. Around 80% of the fish-like animals went extinct. 95% of mini Cynorians went extinct, and 90% of other reptilian-like animals and all amphibian-like animals went extinct on the planet. So that means there are no amphibian-like animals on the planet. Also, they start to realize that this planet life forms are very similar to Earth. The only type of animals that do not exist on planet Sonoria are mammals as well. Yeah. Mammals do not exist on planet Sonoria as well, which is why human-like animals did not evolve. The life forms on this planet are very different than humanity. However, 5 million years ago, a new species evolved on the planet. In the fertile region of the northern cone, one of the most fertile regions on the planet, which is blocked by a massive mountain range because these are three continents collided. You also have the central desert, which is, of course, one of the most inhospitable places on the planet. It is even worse than the Sahara Desert, with many coastal areas being still good for habitation. However, it is still very, very dangerous to live in this desert area as well. Yeah, many of the coastal regions are still very habitable as well. There are also several other continents as well. We have the supercontinent here, the first supercontinent here. We have a smaller continent over here as well here, which is not as big as the supercontinent. However, it split off from the supercontinent around 40 million years ago as well here. Then we have this smaller continent right here, which had split off a long time ago. And then we have the southern continent as well here. The gigantian people first started to evolve around 15 million years ago as well here. However, a new type of life form arrived on the planet. These are the animalios, which are mammal-like animals that did not exist on the planet. However, the race of creatures that existed and that did not want this planet for some strange reason, which, they will mostly occupy this. However, the animalios will still remain very, very rare and very uncommon to find as well here. Animalios are from the moon planet that orbits the sun, the same style as this planet also is a twin planet with a moon on the size of the Earth orbiting it as well. It is theorized kind of similar to Earth that this moon and this planet are made of the same material and are probably from a collision around 5.6 billion years ago as well here. However, the solar system is a bit longer than ours, so 1.6 billion years longer than ours, 2 billion years longer than ours. However, its style still has a similar amount of time to ours, which means both the planet Gigantis style and our style will both be destroyed at the same time. Now we have the dinosaurios, which are the names redubbed for the earliest race of people. They are kind of a weird creature here. They are kind of a strange animal. They had little spikes on the plants, and they are a relative of the Gigantians, the earliest relative of them all. They evolved from many saurians, which have taken most niches on the planet. They gain much larger, and most many saurians, like mammals and modern birds, have feathers all over them as well. The saurios, which became the main dominant life form, created the dinosaurios as well. These are bipedal creatures that can stand. Most many saurians can always stand on their two legs as well However, dinosaurios stand upright and have bigger brain capacities than their undinosaurial counterparts as well This causes them to become widespread in the fertile plain as well the fertile north as well. The fertile north is very similar in climate to Europe as well, with the most northern areas being not the best places to live, and as well here. However, Planet Gigantis, the dinosaurs evolved into two groups: the Residians and the Poritos. The Poritos those occupied this area right here, as well here. They occupied many of the coastal area. Residians continued to occupy the areas. They tried to get into the desert area. However, Residians are not very well adapted to the environment as well here. So they mostly huggle many of the coastal areas as well here. However, most of the northern cone is occupied as well here. Residians are still mostly hunter-gatherer peoples, as they are much smarter than dinosaurs, their ancestor group. However, they are still very primitive. They are basically run as smart as a crow, whereas crows are very smart for animals, but for a sentient life form, these creatures are just not the smartest in the world as well. However, they are starting to understand some of the basic things. Residians can use advanced tool use as well. This is a very big step up from their other ways. Poritos are around the intelligence of a parrot. However, are slightly more intelligent than a parrot. They are able to, however, for a million years, several more intelligent species will occupy these islands as well here, and will even serve and find the southern portion of the continent, discovering it and colonizing it as well. Yeah. The colonization by the Poritos of the southern continent is massive and huge as well. Yeah. And then we go further along the Gigantian race and the Gigantian kind. Then we have the Raptorios, the second descendant of them. They have dissolved into 5 different species. One adapted for the fertile plain of the north and all the coastal regions here. One adapted for the mountain climate. One adapted for the desert, and one for the southern mountains, and one for the southern islands. A 6th species would eventually land on this island, creating a new species called the Hamrios as well. Here, they will be kind of like the Neanderthals. They are not as smart as the modern day Gigantian race. However, Hamrios and Raptorios become as well. However, around 400,000 years ago, Bodokins evolved. These are the first species of Gigantian as well. Bodokins are much more smarter and much more evolved than other kinds of Gigantians ancestors. The Poritos are completely now exiled to these islands because of the much more smarter Bodokins. The Bodokins occupy most of the range, basically outcompeting the Raptorios, which became the dominant species on the planet as well. Yeah. The Bodokins also occupy this island as well as early as 350,000 years ago as well. However, it gets even crazier. Not too long later, modern day Gigantians evolve around this area. This is where the first Gigantians were born. The Gigantians are smarter than even humanity as well. Gigantians have very advanced skills that Poritos and Bodokins and Raptorios do not. Other ancestor species like the Dinosaurios and others are already extinct because they have been outcompeted. Raptorios only exist on these 2 islands. Bodokins exist on this island and exist throughout all of this continent as well here. And also exist on these 3 islands as well here. Yeah. However, Gigantians will soon start the worldwide domination. This is how it starts. So we'll be starting with the early Gigantian tribes as well here. Here, the early Gigantian tribes occupy various areas that surround this area, including these islands right here. This is basically the very beginning of Gigantian civilization as well here. Gigantians are mostly hunter-gatherer peoples. However, what sets them apart is their very high intelligence. This area is rich in megafauna and larger animals. The megafauna of the northern plain will all survive. That's because the megafauna of this continent has survived with all of the ancestors of the Gigantians as well here. There will kind of suck to be megafauna in these areas here, though, and yeah. Yeah. The Gigantians will continue to march. Will continue to Well, and we'll be studying the early expansion of the Gigantians as well here. Here. The Gigantians will continue to march and expand as well here. Around 100,000 years ago, they discover this part of the area. This part of the planet has been thoroughly explored and discovered. Gigantians are literally curious creatures. They want to know all around the world around them as well here. Here, they will discover the northern peninsula as well here. This northern peninsula will be discovered as well here, and they will discover this little island right here as well here. Gigantians are able to create advanced boats, much more advanced than the Puritos are able to do. Here, the Gigantians, starting around 90,000 years ago, according to fossil evidence, will have discovered most of the northern plain of the continent as well here. This is massively expansionist as well here. By 80,000 years ago, they have been discovered as far south as down here. Their expansion will continue to go unimpeded as well here. Yeah, the Gigantian race has been discovered all across the coastal areas and have been discovered on these islands as early as 70,000 years ago as well here. 65,000 years ago, they discovered this large island here alongside many of the islands here where many Gigantian tribes settle as well here. Yeah. By 40,000 years ago, the southern part of the continent has been explored as well here, alongside this island here and these islands right here. However, they discovered that these islands will also be discovered and explored fully. And however, they will discover that another species of Gigantian exists that they do not understand. It still exists. Many smarter Puritos do exist, but however, diseases brought from the mainland knocks out 99% of Puritos. Very few actually survive as well here and become an endangered species as well here. Yeah, these islands are also discovered around 40,000 years ago as well here. Here, Gigantian boats also have around 39,500 years ago also ran around here. They have discovered the second continent. This is the continent where the Reptilios are still the dominant species as well here. Gigantians also discovered many northern islands as well here, around 39,000 years ago. Many of these northern islands are thoroughly explored. Many of the inner continent, by around 37,000 years ago, has been fully explored and colonized by Gigantians. This island as well here has been thoroughly colonized as well here. The remains of these islands here, which 36,000 years ago at least are the earliest known fossil records, 36,000 years ago is the earliest time they have settled on all of these neighboring islands. And this continent was thoroughly explored by 35,000 years ago, which means they took around 5,000 years to discover this whole continent. 30,000 years ago, many of these islands have been explored as well here. And Gigantians occupy all of those islands. Gigantians also occupy these northern islands around 30,000 years ago. Yeah. 25,000 years ago, most of these islands had been explored by Gigantians. And the southern continent, by 15,000 years ago, were thoroughly explored by Gigantians as well here. This only very few obscure islands. This island, around 7,000 years ago, alongside its island chain, has been discovered. And these very remote islands were discovered around 3,000 years ago. The last area to really be discovered by the Gigantians is one of the most remote islands in the world. And that is this island right here, which was discovered 2,000 years ago. Now we have the exploration of the planet mapped out. When was the entire planet mapped out? But now we'll be talking about the basis of the Gigantian civilizations. The first Gigantian civilization appeared around here. A peaceful group of Gigantians created the first civilization with very domesticated animals as well here. They will be known as the Phenarians. The Phenarians are the first Gigantian race to form a civilization as well. The Phenarians are the first Gigantian civilization as well here, and we'll be using a red color. These Gigantians are very, very spiritual civilization. Many early Gigantian civilizations are very spiritual as well here. Another Gigantian civilization will also rise around here. The Omas are the second Gigantian civilization to rise. Very similar to Phenarians, they are very, very, very peaceful as well here. These civilizations, these first Gigantian civilizations, arose around 10,500 years ago, way around the same time as humanity's first civilization. The third civilization, or otherwise known as the Proto-Tyrantians, who also evolve as well here. This group of people are, of course, the ancestors of the modern Tyrantians that exist around the Tyrantian Peninsula as well here. Unlike their modern counterparts, Proto-Tyrantians are very peaceful folk that do not really like war at all, compared to the war-craving descendants that are obsessed with taking over as much land as they possibly can as well. Another area in the northern region that gains a lot of traction is Nunia. This is another Gigantian civilization that was created around 9,000 years ago as well here. And there we go. This is the beginning of the Gigantian civilization. The Gigantian empires have been created as well here. What are the destinies for the Gigantian empires as well? And this series will likely be very long, unless no one watches this series, obviously. But as well here. But I have been wanting to do this series for a long time as well here. Goodbye.